to week 4 of the course, and hopefully we're going to get to the lecture. I am traveling, and so it's kind of a strange thing to return your brain to work when you're in, you want to see, a kind of beautiful setting. There's like a bunch of geese on the pond and swans, and it's really beautiful. But let's talk about usability. So you are well on your way to working on Project 1, which is about professional communication. And Project 2, which we're about to get started on, is about evaluating usability. And that might seem like a strange jump from professional writing. This is about professional writing. What does usability have to do with this? Well, the issue is that for Project 3, you are going to be researching for a project where you're going to generate a report, but that report is going to be housed online in a web page. And so we're going to be talking a lot about web design, and so much of writing takes place online. And so there's a lot of talk about how to make your writing matter and stand out and be legible and usable for the computer audience. So that is the purpose of this project, is to get you started thinking about, well, what are some of the features of the way that I write and design my text to put on a computer interface to make it legible and helpful for audience, and to keep them on the page. You're always trying to keep users' attention. So that's why we're doing this. So let's start with what really is usability. And when I think we talk about usability kind of colloquially. We know what it means for something to not be usable. We know what it means to go to a website and to find ourselves unable to actually get to the information that we need, or unable to get the process completed that we need to get completed. So as I was doing more research into the origins of, or the earliest ways that the concept of usability has been deployed, I noticed that all of the literature really refers to this thing called the International Organization for Standardization, which actually is known as the ISO. And it's probably because it's European, and it's like the International Organisation de Standardisation, so it's the ISO. But for us, it's International Organization for Standardization. And this is cited in a lot of the academic literature on usability and human-computer interaction. And so I think it's an important and interesting place to start, because it kind of gives us a real broad overview of what usability might mean. And from their perspective, usability can come in any of these sectors: in the health sector, in management, in environmental sustainability, in DEI, in materials, in food and agriculture. All of these different domains have a way that we can conceive of and think about what it means to use things, for users to interact with these things. For our purposes, I would say that professional writing occurs in every single one of these domains, and the kinds of work that you might be doing, putting your writing onto screen interfaces, and that occurs in all of these sectors. But I would say maybe IT and related technologies is where we're sort of focusing maybe our conversation here. But really, any of these domains have usability as a component to them. So that is sort of to get us started. What is usability? What does it mean for a user to need something from the healthcare sector? How do they access that? How do they get to understand how to set up an appointment, for example? They need to be able to go to, probably nowadays, a patient portal. Where do they click the start, or how do they find and navigate to a place where they're going to send an email? Once they're in that email place, is it clear how to get the intended audience that they need? Same thing with any kind of environmental sustainability. If there is a recycling center in your vicinity, how do you know when the trash is going to come? Is there a clear sort of web interface that gives you all the information you need to know about when and how to be a kind of responsible citizen when it comes to environmental sustainability? So you notice how there is a usability component to all of these domains. For our purposes, we're going to start by looking at some of the information from Usability Testing Essentials. And as you'll see, we're going to diverge very quickly from her because Carol M. Barnum is writing more about usability testing when it comes to having actual users come in and do what Nielsen is going to call empirical testing. But we'll see about that in just a second. That being said, we're starting with this text to kind of ground us in some language. So what is usability? And so this definition, which I got from that Ready, Set, Test book, but actually comes from the ISO, which is why I wanted to start with them. And this sounds so kind of vague and annoying, but usability means the extent to which a system, product, or service can be used by specified users to achieve specified goals with effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction in a specified context of use. So you see that like this feels kind of redundant and like it's saying nothing, but it's trying to be broadly applicable. So if we were going to apply it to that that person who wants to get into the patient portal in their new doctor's office, the system is the portal for the medical the patients at that medical establishment. The service, the specified users are the patients. Their goal, let's say, is to send a note to their doctor asking about like a potential prescription complication. And how easy is that? How effective is it? And then how satisfied are they with the experience of using that system? And so that's kind of what we're thinking about when we're talking about usability. You can think of many different systems, many different goals, and many different contexts in which this might occur, but that's just one of them. So if you wanted more help understanding what some of these things mean or getting a more specific idea of what they are, effective is how completely and how accurately can you reach your goals. So sometimes you are not able to, have you ever been on like a drop down menu whenever you're like on a chat bot and it's like, what would you like to do today? And you don't really find the actual thing you want to do or the question that you have that you are trying to get answered by this kind of back and forth chat situation. You might in a way end up getting what you need, but the drop down menu doesn't really provide essentially what you're looking for, and so maybe it's not entirely effective. And then in that way, if you have to click something that's not exactly your question and it sends you on a kind of wild goose chase down to get other questions answered, then that's not very efficient because you can't just do it in a couple of steps. Obviously, there's engagement. Like, does it make you want to stay and linger? Is it something where if you've made a mistake, you have to go all the way back to the beginning of the process and restart it? And then is it something that you can make sense of very quickly? These are effective, efficient, engaging, error-tolerant, and easy to learn are good kind of beginning rules of thumbs or helping us round out our understanding of what it means for something to be usable. So let's talk a little bit about this kind of jolly-looking Danish fellow. His name is Jacob Nielsen. And when you start working on usability and looking up the literature, this guy's name is going to pop up all over the place. He's kind of the granddaddy of usability and when it comes to human-computer interaction. He did really, really pioneering work in web usability and user experience. And so a lot of his foundational principles linger and find themselves in the more specific contextual literature about usability. So I found an article that talked about how to evaluate the usability of online, like college websites, university websites, and even that had a kind of background with Nielsen. So I thought it would be a good place to get started talking about usability because they're very broad applicable principles that we can insert into many different contexts. So we're really talking not about the usability of like products and services, but kind of the usability of text and information that's circulating on computer interfaces. So mobile phones, personal computing, that kind of thing. That's what we are looking at in this class because you will be designing a web page. And so you want to have some ideas of what will make your web page usable for the people interacting with your report. So Nielsen is going to guide our thoughts about this. And from his article, Usability 101, And this is adapted. No, this one isn't. This is just kind of an overview of the concept. I really liked his explanation of why it's important to consider usability because, and you notice that leave. These are, many things will happen if you don't pay attention to usability. And the first and worst one is that people will leave your website. So usability is a necessary condition for survival. If it's difficult, people leave. If it fails to tell you what the company can do, they're going to leave. If they get lost, they will leave. If it doesn't answer questions, they will leave. I mean, I have done this. You have done this. You're in the middle of, you're trying to find an answer. You're desperate for answers. You click on one source, and if it doesn't meet your needs quickly, you move on and go to another one. And so to what extent is your document or your website effective? It's effective if your user stays on it. So this is why we want to consider usability. So how is it that we evaluate usability? Well, Nielsen's early work on this topic, he has a paper in 1990 and a paper in 1994 where he's kind of like working out these basic web interface usability concepts, and they get honed over time. But the basics are here, and he said there are 4 ways. One is automatically, and that's when you have some sort of web program that you could sort of throw your own system into it and it does like an automatic check. And that's not what we're talking about. That's sort of a very bespoke thing, and very, very rarely can an automatic checking system detect what really you're looking for. Second is empirically, and this is huge. This is what a lot of people think of when they think usability testing. They think getting people in, just like random people off the street, and say, hey, come and use this website and see how it goes for you. And there are lots of ways that researchers will watch and check this. So there's a think aloud model where they ask the user, the sort of like guinea pig, to come in and move around on a web page and click through, and they ask them to do the think aloud model. So they're saying aloud what's going through their head as they test the instructions or test the kind of the interface. There's a marked up pages model where a user is following a set of instructions and they write in anything that they find confusing or that they don't understand, or little things that they notice as they go along. There are other ways to do this. But then there's another version, which is kind of he hand waves, but it's called formally. This means that you have a very specific kind of test that you want to run, and it's not through a computer program, but it's a specific kind of an analytic model that you set up to do it. But the easiest one, in my opinion, and one that Nielsen really advocates for because it's cheap and it catches a lot of the big stuff, is called heuristic, or the inspection method. And that's when you have an interface and you don't get a random user, but you just have someone who's pretty smart and who's done this before and who's thought about it, and they look for very specific features and they kind of do a little evaluation as they interact with the interface. It doesn't have to be a random user off the street. It's someone who is trained to think about usability, basically going through and doing an inspection, a check, to see what it's like, see what some of these features are like. And so he articulates 10 usability heuristics for interface design. And you see that this is a 1994 article that has been kind of polished and put into a nice version that's got these lovely visuals, and it's organized really well. And I have it linked on the usability resources. It's the very first thing that you can click on, and I highly suggest, because it will help you in your project, really reading through that. There's a video that goes along with each heuristic. You can take a look at those. But these are 10 principles for interaction design. And we're going to look at them in just a second as I explain to you what your project 2 is going to be. So let's go to Canvas. Now, can I actually do that? Maybe we have to do this. Escape, escape, escape. Who knows what we're doing and how we... Yes, there we go. So we're going to go to project 2. And I'm sorry about this. Okay, project 2 first draft. So this should be available to you. You can access this. You are going to sign up for a free account on either Duolingo or Khan Academy. And in using one of these, and if you already have an account for Duolingo, I suggest that you begin again with a new language. You do not have to learn a new language. God, no. You just have to go through a couple of lessons. And you want to start from scratch so that you can work along with this thing called the Heuristic Evaluation Workbook. So as you're interacting with it, you are taking specific notes on those 10 heuristics for usability so that you can generate a report. So you're going to choose either Duolingo or Khan Academy and evaluate the usability of the learning interface using the heuristic evaluation method. Then you're composing a short report that summarizes your findings. So once you've decided which one you're doing, make sure it's free. You can do desktop, you can do mobile, whichever you choose. Then you're going to want to familiarize yourself with the Heuristic Evaluation Workbook. And this is a PDF that you can download from right here. All of that is explained in that link that is on the Usability Resources tab. So again, here is the wonderful summary of it, and you notice that with each heuristic, visibility of system, the design should always keep users informed about what is going on through appropriate feedback. This is the first heuristic. Every interface should have a clear understanding, visibly understanding what's happening. Where are you within the process of your experience? Do you understand how to go backwards? Do you understand how to go forwards? This kind of thing. And you can take a quick look at the video that does more explanation. And then it moves on to the second heuristic, and it also has a video along with articles and lots of resources. So I highly suggest that you take a look at this first. However, you are going to be looking at the evaluation workbook, which is really nice because it is literally just inviting you to take notes which will be very pertinent to your usability report. So you're going to understand, okay, visibility of systems, the design should always keep users informed about what is going on. It gives you some clear questions to ask yourself as you interact with the interface. Same thing with match between real system and real world, user control and freedom, consistency and standards. So you see that there are 10 of these. It seems like quite a lot, so I would say spend some time really understanding these heuristics, reading them, paying attention to them. Maybe do that one day. And then the next day, you're going to actually download or start your account with either Duolingo or Khan Academy and start working through 1 to 3 lessons. While you're doing that, though, you want to be taking notes. Are there any issues that you're experiencing with communicating the state at which the program is in? Are you, the user, presented quickly after different actions? Or do you get feedback after you do an action? Or are you waiting? Or are you unclear of what to do? So these are the kinds of things you're going to be filling out. And again, you can fill it out right here in the PDF using a PDF reader and a sort of like an Adobe Pro, or you can literally just write a little chart out, have a chart and say, number 1, issues, recommendations. That works for me too. So you are keeping tabs of all of these things as you work through the system. So the next thing you're going to do is work through a minimum of 3 lessons. So as you complete the lessons, pause regularly to take notes in the workbook or in a separate document. Try to observe moments when the interface feels smooth or frustrating. Think about how the site communicates with you, how easy it is to navigate, and how well the design supports your learning. Then once you have all of that, that is the basis for a report that you are going to write. That's between 500 and 700 words. And I do not need this to be elegant or beautiful. I would like you to use principles of clear and concise writing that you learned in week 2. But remember, a first draft is a first draft. I can kind of comment on that for the second draft. But you want to have 4 major paragraphs or 4 major parts. You can exceed 500 to 700 words, that's fine, but that's kind of your minimum. You have an introduction paragraph that previews your findings, including a thesis statement of evaluating how user-friendly the platform is. You want to talk about its strengths and weaknesses and then its recommendations. So those are the 4 paragraphs you need to have. So this is the project you have. At the end, you will have completed at least 3 lessons. You do need to attach a copy of your completed heuristic workbook. If you don't want to use that sheet that I gave you access to through the link, you can just take a screenshot or a picture of whatever you did use. Or maybe if you do it on a document, that's fine. Just download that and attach that as well. You want to have clear professional language. You do want your document to be formatted in either MLA or APA, and I do want you to have a works cited page if you reference external sources, or if you use GenAI, and also using screenshots of prompts you used, including that. So there's quite a bit to put into just one document, but that's what I'm asking, is for all of those things to go into one document. So I hope that that is decently easy to make sense of. And basically for this week, though, what I would like you to do is simply respond to a few questions. This should not take very long. Describe some interface or human computer interaction you had in which the usability was poor. So I want you to have fun and kind of complain about an interface. And then I want you to diagnose your interaction using the usability heuristic. So I would like you to say, well, this is one of the principles, this is one of the heuristics that it did not do well or that it violated. And then simply give me any questions you have about Project 2, and that should do it. So good luck with that, and I hope that you're continuing to have a lovely summer.